Well, now that we're at the hottest months of the year, night fishing becomes a viable option. Why is that? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, during the summer months on especially popular lakes, you got a lot of recreational boaters out there that just turn that lake to a froth. When the lights go down, they come off the lake and the lake lays down and it's nice and calm and serene. It makes it a much more pleasant experience for bass fishing. But more importantly, the bass come up shallower to feed. Particularly when it's a clear night out and you've got some moonlight, those bass come up and they start feeding. And that's what makes night fishing so much fun. It's exhilarating. So I get asked a lot of questions about night fishing. I think the number one question I get asked the most is, what bait should I use? So let's start with that. It's actually really simple. It's a lot easier than what baits to choose in the daylight. For night fishing, I got 4 main bait categories that I use. That's jig, spinnerbait, buzzbait, and worms. That's it. Very simple. The difference is that for number one, I size up. I go to larger size jigs. We're talking 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce size jigs. The spinnerbaits, I'm using 3/4 ounce spinnerbaits. The buzzbaits, I'll use, buzzbait's got at least a clacker on it to make a lot of noise, or I'll use even a double-bladed buzzbait, a double buzzer. And the worms, I'll use like a 10-inch worm, large worms. The reason behind this is you want to put out more vibration. These baits displace more water and they're larger targets for the bass to find, so it makes it easier for them to annihilate. So you'll get more bites that way. The other change that I make is color. Bass, let's make it really clear, bass can see much better at night than us humans. I want to make that abundantly clear. However, in the absence of light, all the colors turn to different shades of gray. So what I do is all my colors are black or real dark like a June bug. The reason for that is against a sea of different shades of gray, black contrasts the most against that background. So they show up the most. It's easier for the bass to find. Whether that's contrasting from a moonlit sky of a buzzbait going across the top, or even on the bottom, it'll be a lighter shade of gray than a black jig, for example. So that's the differences I make with my lures. You notice one thing that's missing? Yeah. Any lures that have treble hooks on them. Yeah, treble hooks are, I'm telling you what, if you're fishing a top water bait, like a popper or something that's got treble hooks on it, and you see or hear the bass attack, there's a tendency to set the hook right away. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. Well, if the bass doesn't have it yet, that lure can come flying back at you at Mach 80 and you can't see it. That is a dangerous situation. Or if you're fishing a crankbait and the bass comes up and jumps in the air and throws that bait and it comes flying back at you, you can't see it. Okay, that's the number one reason why I don't throw any lures with treble hooks at night. But there's other reasons. At night, your ability to make accurate casts go way down. It can turn a really good bait caster or caster into a terrible one because your depth perception is difficult. When I first started bass fishing at night, I noticed, I didn't realize this, but when I make a cast, I look at the target, I'm aiming at the target, but in my peripheral vision, I pay attention to the trajectory of that lure and I make adjustments mid-flight so I can hit that target. Well, at night, you can't see that. So you end up throwing past your target. You can throw up on a dock, you can throw it up on the shore or in some branches. And if you got treble hooks, you're gonna get snagged. It's worse yet if you end up throwing it on someone's boat or something like that and you snag their upholstery. It's like, you don't wanna have that conversation with a boat owner. It's like, sorry, you know. So I won't throw that. Plus, if you do catch a fish that's got treble hooks in it, at night it's more difficult to see. If you're trying to land them and you try to lip them, you got a fish that's thrashing about with a face full of crankbait, you know, or a face full of treble hook, you can easily get hooked that way. And even when you're trying to remove the hooks from them, it's hard to see. And again, the fish could thrash about. There's just a lot more opportunity for you to get hooked. So I just avoid treble hooks for night fishing. Those are you can do it at your own risk. I'm not saying you can't do it, but for me, I want to have fun. I don't want to spend time removing hooks where they shouldn't be. So I avoid those. But anyway, so I stick to those four main categories. Now, where to fish? This is, for the most part, the bass have come up shallower. So what I mean by shallower, sometimes in the summer they're deeper than 10 feet deep, even really deep. But the active fish, the ones that are biting the most and are more apt to bite your lure, are in the shallows, less than 10 feet of water. And this is especially true at night. More bass come up in that 0 to 10 foot zone than during the daylight. So that's what I target. I like to target areas that have lots of weeds. Big weed bed, a giant flat with a hydrilla or something that, that tops out a few feet under the water. That's great for buzz baiting. Or weed edges. The outside areas of weed edges, again, with those different baits, work really well with you can throw a jig or a spinner bait and draw those bass out. They use those areas the same way they do in the daytime. There really isn't any difference there. So going along the outside edge of a weed line with a spinner bait or throwing alongside docks. Docks, by the way, can be really productive, particularly if they have lights on them. Lighted docks, marinas, those lights attract minnows. That attracts the bait fish, that attracts the bass. So anytime I see a lit dock, I have to fish it, and I fish it thoroughly. I'll fish with all those baits just to see how many bites I can get off it. And especially if you're in a marina, you might not even have to leave the marina. You can launch your boat right there and fish the marina and never leave, and you can catch a bunch of fish and have yourself a great evening. And sometimes you're even near a bar or something, you can hear the music playing, they got live music or something, and it can be a great night. So those are the areas I like to target. Again, if you know of an area in the lake that's got, a very productive area, maybe it's a point or it's got scattered chunk rock or stumps or something, again, you can fish it with all those lures. The key thing to keep in mind is not every night is going to be a bonanza with a bass or just jump on your lure. So that's why I've got the jigs and I've got the plastic worms. You fish those the same way you do in the daylight. That you throw it out, you let it fall, and this time I like to watch the line, but it's hard to watch the line at night. So I do a semi-slack line so I can feel the bite if a bass hits it while it's falling, and then work it back to the boat like you would a normal jig. Same thing with a worm. And if that doesn't work, you can drag it on the bottom, but don't forget to swim these baits too. Swimming a jig or swimming a worm at night can be deadly. So be sure to do that just in case if they don't want to hit the spinner bait or they don't want to hit the buzz bait, try a little bit faster movement with these other baits and you might hit pay dirt. So the big difference between fishing at night and day is it's darker. I mean, I know that's a big duh, but what that means is that you're gonna need light. So what some guys do is in order to see the shoreline better, you can buy these portable lights. They're black lights, they're UV lights, and they have suction cups on them, and they stick to the side of your boat, and it lights up the bank and the shoreline. Makes it easier to fish that way. I would recommend get 2 of those, 1 for each side of the boat, and don't trust the suction cups because they have a tendency to come unbuttoned and your light falls right in the water and you're out of light. So double down with maybe some duct tape, make sure it's secured in place, you don't have that issue. The other issue is when you're tying knots and you're retying lures or you're looking for lures, it's great to have a flashlight, even have another flashlight as a backup in case that goes out. The problem with that is when you're done doing all that and you turn off the light, you get night blindness, right? It takes a while for your eyes to readjust to the darkness again, so for a while there you really can't see very well. It's almost like when someone takes a flash photography in your eyes and you see spots. It's just a lot worse that way when at night. So the way to combat that is get lights that have dimmer switches on them or have a lower setting, or even a red light works really well. You can buy these hat clip lights that attach to your hats, and oftentimes they have a bright light so when you're walking around you can see where you're going, but then you get a dimmer version for that exact reason I just mentioned, and even a red. A red works really well. You can see with that and you won't have that night blindness issue. The problem, of course, when you're using these lights is they attract insects. So whereas you don't have to wear sunscreen for night fishing, you do have to wear insect repellent. Sorry guys, you can't get away with that. The mosquitoes will attack you. So you do have to wear that. Another thing to have is, especially if you're bank angler, in addition to these lights, is to have a UV light, especially if you're in areas that have scorpions. If you're walking the bank, you want that UV light so it'll light up that scorpion and you won't have an unpleasant experience with them. Promise you, in those desert climates, that could be a nasty end to your fishing excursion. So black lights will help you spot those scorpions. The other thing you want as far as lights are concerned is you have to, if you're on a boat, you have to have your navigational lights on. You absolutely have, even when you're not moving, when the big motor isn't on, you have to have them. That's the law. And it's for a couple of reasons, guys. Number one, obviously you want other boats to see you, but sometimes, especially when you're night fishing on a weekend, there's party boats out there, there's other guys out there that just, you know, they may be 1 or 2 6-packs into it already, and they're not paying attention. And even with your lights on. So you've got to pay attention to the boaters around you. When you see them coming, don't assume they see you just because you have your navigational lights on. But that's another main reason you have to have them on. Another reason is this is a true experience, I had a buddy of mine who was night fishing on the dock to dock on a heavily populated lake with very expensive homes, just ringed with expensive homes. He had his lights off because he felt it was scaring the fish off. And he had a very angry armed homeowner come out and confront him. The homeowner thought that he was trying to get into his boat, and you know, his boat that was moored there at his dock was going to steal stuff out of his boat, or it might even be wanting to break into his home. And the reason why is he had his navigation lights off. He was trying to conceal himself. The homeowner's eyes, he saw this guy as a threat. So it's your safety in mind. You've got to have those navigation lights on. Speaking of navigation, when you're on your boat and you're going down the lake, 2 things. Number one, never, ever, ever, ever go on plane. Just don't. I don't care how well you know this lake. If you grew up on the lake and you know it like the back of your hand and you've got GPS and everything, what all of that doesn't tell you is there may be a swimmer out there enjoying a night swim. There might be someone out in a canoe or a kayak or an inflatable boat just out there playing around. Maybe a boat has come loose from its moorage, and some people like to anchor their boats out in the middle of the lake for the night. You won't know any of that stuff until you're on them. And if you're on plane, it's too late. It's a nasty situation. No fish is worth any kind of accident like that. To that point, even when you're on idle speed, get yourself a big, bright floodlight. You can get like it was 70,000 candle power or lumens or however they measure it now. But they will plug into your cigarette lighter and they will light up really well. But they don't, the reach isn't that far. So this is why you still can't get on plane even when you're using them. You only see what's in front of you, and they don't throw light too far out. So again, that swimmer out there or that log that's floating in the water or something like that, you're not gonna spot it in enough time if you're on plane, but use that spotlight to light your way, to look for things like that, for any objects that may be there that aren't supposed to. That can save the day. Plus, going back to that guy who had maybe too many 6-packs and he's out there boating around and he doesn't see you, break out that light and shine it at them, and maybe you can get their attention that way. So always have it handy and ready. You might want to wear a life vest. If you're not a great swimmer, it's always good to have that handy. Another quick little safety feature is just let people know where you're going to be, you know, where you're going to launch, where you're going to be fishing, where you expect to get, when you expect to get off the lake. Because you never know. You go to a launch and it's an empty parking lot. There might be somebody there who shouldn't be. With this day and age, you never can be too careful. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to scare you guys off. Just be prepared for things that probably won't happen, but you'll be prepared if they do. But usually you won't have any issues. To that end, again, if you're bank fishing, if the marina will let you go out, if you can find a marina and they'll let you walk the dock at night, man, you can have yourself an exciting evening. And bass fishing can be really exciting. At night, you may not be able to see that blow up, but you'll hear it. And as soon as you feel that fish tug, set the hook, you can get some really big fish fishing at night. I hope that helps. For more tips and tricks like this, visit bassresource.com.